Hello, 101.5 FM.
Lawyer, niente e fra anadwe yenim se wadwumadie bi ntinya sakra nka wo efia anadwe.
Anokre.
Ya to abawie ye hu the next president of the republic. Ye hu ye members of parliament with the exception of one constituency a enchebia beba. Na niente ye fra anadwe eye Honorable Inusah Fuseini were outgoing member of parliament for Tamari Central. I say the presidential candidates, John Dramani Mahama, the former president, Omo Wiano, and you all urging say on some ensemble the members, non formal government, parallel government, or a lawyer ni, or a seasoned politician. Emrana se saying.
Many a question part of you. Ebetimi anka. Meno kasawia try hesobe senya. Honorable Inusah Fuseini. Ye hesobe tumejina. Sa asem no kan no so betuma say jina so biwana. Ebia no kan in the heat of the moment. Maybe our platform, so and maybe he was on TV and he wanted to excite the base, and maybe okay. Now, when you have time to reflect on, maybe a winya, a konya na friend, near so better say na because some kind of a treasonable comment. In a sense, okay, say on declare who president elect. Now want ni whole cabinet. What do you want? No parties say one. Realistically, we have a legal side the crap on change. So here now or the fear on the Jubilee House. Now one kasa cabinet na hifa no be meeting. Na army ben na no commander in chief. Police ben no command. One best sworn in. Is it going to be the Chief Justice? It makes sense. And because maybe on reflection, he may walk back on what he just said because it makes no sense. Now let's come to legal aspects. Legally, there can only be one president at a time. And for him to say, on declaring whole president, meaning say we have two presidents at a time. Meaning he's seeking to overthrow the constitution of the country. And that in itself is treasonable. And he should be charged with a treasonable offense. Because anybody who urges or encourages the overthrow of the constitution is committing treason. And that person should be charged with treason. But I'm entering because I say maybe you should give him another opportunity and see whether he will walk back on what he said. But if he still insists, then we have now moved away from the slip of the tongue moment to actually urging people to overthrow the system. And therefore, that in itself will give a basis for the police to go and charge him with an offense. Because I say, when you're on a stage or you're on a campaign, in the heat of the moment, you can make certain comments that you may regret after. But when your time reflecting on that statement, that's why you still maintain, say, that is what you mean, and you still insist that it should happen now. Then the police will come and charge you with treason because you are urging people to overthrow the system. And that in itself is a very serious offense. The dynamic something with the number. We're not take my challenge and try and call him and let's see what he will say. Whether he will insist on what he said or he will walk back on what he said. Because either way, then we can get a clear answer. If he insists on what he said, then he should be charged by the police for a treasonable offense.
But lawyer, near Ghana, yes, equality before the law, number.
Yes.
But lawyer, say me and I will be free me chrome gosh. And who say impo ebikwa any Facebook and yet TV and what cast handsome way. By this time, come in baby or ki I invite no ka be and I. But it seems to me, or so many Ghanaians say, equality before the law I come, just on paper, in reality, and yet.
Meaning, I would make call back to your political science class, and I like that. you see, you can't say equality before the law, but in reality, some people are more equal than others. With this, when you go into political and what is it called, legal philosophy, you can say there is a presumption or the concept. They say everybody is supposed to be equal before the law. But in reality, in application of that statement, you end up seeing some people being treated as more equal than others. For example, if I say, na ohini kesiye bi atomra. Inse se police beko de abanka ba kwa kogu ni sa ti se memenu mienu anka ombaye no. Omso no. Yantu yen sam frɛ no. Ni actual letter about invitation. Yes, so I need him brother report allegation be ato so. Nebra be you no. Ordinarily or an answer in a similar application to an ordinary person on the road, no. Normally they will just go and pick the person up without giving the person any due regard. But when it comes to the application of the law to certain people in the community, for example, for some people, when they saw that it potentially, and I'm using this word advisedly, potentially treasonable comment, they wrote a letter to him. Say they want him to report, to answer. Or they give regard not to the individual, but the stool in which the person occupies. As they say, come and report. So now, in a similar situation, in relation to this honorable, soon to be no more parliamentarian, what he did is potentially treasonable. And that's what I say. I am actually daring you to test him by asking him whether he still stands by his. He may probably walk back. Oh, and then that in itself will show say he's not a man after all, because Obi or a man, he will not walk back. But if he insists, then he will be open to being charged for making statements that potentially can destabilize the state. Now, in terms of why he has not been picked up, he used the same application. Say maybe because he's a member of parliament, maybe the police want to be sure that the statements were made by him, or maybe the police are not aware that he's made those statements. So why don't you give him an opportunity now? Invite him and let's see whether he can maintain his same position. If he chickens out, then we know he's not a man after all. But if he still sits on stick to his guns, then exactly we know that the police will see whether the police will apply the law equally, like they will apply to you and me, whether they will now have the guts to also apply the same law to him. And you are right. The law says we are supposed to be equal before the law. But in the actual application of the law, you end up seeing some people being treated more equal than others.
Hello. 101.5 FM.